Hey everybody, I'm Andy.
And I'm Tanya, and this is Lappy Mountain Living.
Yeah, welcome to our channel, guys. Hope you enjoy whatever this is.
Yeah, have fun.
So, as I was telling you guys in an earlier video, can't find the handle for this fixture, and it's a real pain in the neck to use without a handle. It used to look pretty much like this, and I'm not actually going to make something that looks like this because, I mean, it doesn't matter. I just need a handle, so I'm just making a handle. And so basically I'm going to get a piece of steel and cut it off and machine it all the way around, thread it, and then I may or may not put like an actual little handle on it. Don't really need that. You can just work it fine without it. But that's what we're doing today. Going to make a replacement handle to put on here so we don't have to use vice grips and pennies like we did the last time. So when I got my lathe, a buddy of mine gave me all kinds of steel, like that whole shelf there full of stainless and 4140, and there's some UHMW and some different things. There was a little bit of aluminum, so that was awesome. And one of the chunks that he gave me is what I'm going to use to make the handle. So this is it over here. It's pretty massive bar. It's like 3-inch by over 2 foot long, and I'm just going to cut a little, maybe 5/8 of an inch lop off the end of that, and then we'll get that into the lathe and start turning it into a handle. Yeah, here's this thing again. Ugly as can be, but just watch. It's going to do its job perfectly for me. Eventually, I'll probably make something less like that.
Does the job.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And the chopping.
And this is going to take a little while.
Bye for now. Up to 8 hours now?
Oh, seriously though, like 15 minutes or something?
Yeah.
I'm just going to knock this burr off of here on the belt sander, and then we can get it up in the lathe. So now I have a decision to make, because this is a 6-inch chuck, and in theory, I guess you could probably do something up to 7.5, 8 inches diameter using the outside jaws. But here, I'll show you what my concern is. Yeah, I wouldn't mind grabbing it like that, but the jaw comes past center, so I couldn't do that. I'd have to do this, but then I'd have, this all in the way as I'm trying to work on this thing. So I'm going to see how it looks when I take the outside jaws and open them up big enough that this will actually fit in there. And I'm going to see if I think there's enough teeth, the back of the jaws actually engaging with the scroll inside, that I feel safe. I'm not going to break something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go till these jaws actually come out. And I'm going to see what kind of diameter we're dealing with, and then I'll know how many of these little teeth on the back are actually engaged with the scroll, and see if that seems adequate. I mean, I'm still in, there, just popped out of the scroll. That would give me no more than 1/2 inch of engagement. 1/2 inch of engagement, I'd be lucky to have 2 teeth touching the scroll. That scares me. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead, put the outside jaws in, and just deal with the consequences of that overhang. So for anyone not familiar with how a 3-jaw chuck works, this threaded looking thing in here is called a scroll. And it just goes around and just keeps going around and getting smaller as it goes. So if you look at these jaws, you can tell that you would feed this one into the scroll first, and then as you're turning the scroll around, this tooth would advance. By the time it gets to this one, these two would be at the same height, and then you'd keep going. By the time it got to this one, in the end, then all three of your jaws are running true. So I don't know if you can see that, but that is where the scroll begins, right there. So I'm going to take the number one jaw and put it in, and then start coming around. And when I see the beginning of the scroll get to number two, right there, I'll put number two in. And then as I see it coming there, I saw it. So now I'm going to put number three in. Okay, so that's where it's going to live, and you can see we've got darn near full engagement of the teeth, so that'll be plenty strong. We are going to have all this sticking out past, spinning around. Just have to be careful and deal with it, know it's there. I'm going to find some spacers to put behind here, though, so that I can hold this by much less, so I can do more of this surface in one pass. Use this. So I don't have any spacers, so I'm just going to take this piece of 1/4-inch key stock, cut it into 4 pieces. That way I can use these spacers in my 3-jaw or my 4-jaw. And yeah, saw it into the 4 pieces, deburr it all up, and then I'll be ready to start actually, I can space that part out and we can start working on it. So what I want to show you now is, because this piece is pretty short to begin with, and if you look down here, there's quite a space between the clamp on this saw and the actual blade. So I mean, I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't cut all 4 pieces, because by the time I got to the last piece, there'd be nothing hanging on. So what I did was I made up these jobbies here, and that basically extends the vise all the way out till it touches the blade. Now, if I just put this in here, when I clamped it down, the back would go crooked like this. And then you'd only be grabbing right at the back, and this thing could move around. So to prevent that, I've got a 1/4-inch worth of other little spacers here. And they'll make these, I call them vise extensions, and those spacers will force the vise extensions to stay parallel to each other. So I'm just eyeballing this. They don't have to be perfect. And first I'm going to cut the whole thing in half, then I'm going to cut each of those halves into half.
One more cut.
So I got my 4 little spacers. These are going to forever remain a set. I have different sizes. These are 1/4-inch. I do have in my drawer some 3/16 and a few different sizes, but yeah, these will be handy.
Like me?
Yeah, handy. That's funny. I mean, I'm going to see how this goes for me. In the past, I have drilled holes through the center of these and got really fine wire so I could put them up in place and then tie the wire around, so I don't have to try and hold all 3 of them while I'm getting everything in place. And also, if one of them were to get slightly loose for whatever reason, it wouldn't come winging out of there and hit you. But I think instead of doing all that, I'm just going to, that one I'll get for free. It's not going anywhere. Just a matter if I can get these other 2 in. Should have prepared myself with a chuck wrench. There it is. There it is. We're good. We're good. Honestly, once this thing's in place and everything's tight, it doesn't really matter if they do fall out. It's just that you wouldn't really want to catch one in the face. So I don't know if you want to come here, you can see the spacers actually in there. So the back of this thing is going to run reasonably true. Now, if we didn't have spacers, we could have also dialed the back in. That's a bit of a pain too, because you've got to come in with your dial, with a test dial, feel the back surface, come all the way out with your hand wheel on the lathe, go to the next spot, come all the way in. There's a lot of in and out and in and out and tapping things around. The spacers are much quicker. Middle, got lots of that left, miles. So what I'm debating here is, I talked in an earlier video about how this cross slide is so wide because this is a lathe and a milling machine. So if I have the compound rest here, if I have it in this groove instead of here, then even when I get this thing kind of parked away as far as it'll go, I have trouble reaching with my tailstock to do any work, and we're gonna have to drill and tap a hole in there. So that's why I have it over on this side, to give me clearance, because I know we're gonna use the tailstock. But then also, with all this sticking out so far, I'm also going to want to actually get my tool tucked in over here a little more. But you can see I'm running out of travel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this thing up. I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to make sure that I don't run out of travel coming out, because again, I want all this out over here so that when I am using the tailstock, I have clearance. Then I'm going to make sure that I can easily get all the way to center, because I need to cut right to center well before this thing crashes. So if you go too far, like something in there will break. It'll just break.
You've gone too far.
You've gone too far. Once you've gone too far, there's no going back. You're taking this thing apart and you're trying to find out what it is you broke. And you hope it's only one thing. You hope there's not another halfways broke thing in there that you're going to learn about an hour from now. So that's why I'm being real careful at this stage to get everything set so I can do the whole job without having to move stuff like that around. So you can see here my tools past center, and I still have a good 7/8 of an inch before I'm worried about crashing the machine. Now I'm going to come all the way out to the outside because I'm going to want to nest this thing in behind there. I'm going to make sure I'm nowhere near running out of travel over here. I don't think coming out breaks things. I think it's only going in that breaks things, but I'm never going to learn because I'm just not going to try it. So now I can get past and I can get my tailstock as close as I need to. So order of operations, this is tight in here now, and we got all our clearances set where everything is where we want it. So what we're going to do first is just face the thing off, minimum skim it, clean it up, make a nice surface there. And then I'm going to angle this tool bit slightly. I'm going to take sort of a minimum skim pass, get all this mill scale, get everything round. And then I'm going to, when I go to take that cut, I'm going to set a 0. And then when I flip this around, I'm going to come back to the same 0 with the hopes that when I clean this little bit that I won't be able to reach up, that it blends in pretty nice. And hopefully it won't, require a whole lot of finishing after that. Don't get hung up in that, okay?
That sounds like a plan. I don't want to get hung up in any of this.
I can see my first spacer has fallen out, but again, that's fine. I'm not afraid of getting hit by these. They're little. machine has a variable speed motor, and that's really rare on a lathe, and it's a little bit annoying a lot of times, but for facing something off like this, it's actually pretty handy because I can increase the speed as I'm coming in and maintain roughly the same surface feet per minute throughout the whole cut. Now, I'm actually happy enough with that. A bunch of this is going to get dished away just kind of for aesthetics and to keep the weight down. Where I started into it here, even if this doesn't clean up when I go to do my outside, I don't even care because I'm going to end up radiusing these outsides anyway, so they feel nice in your hand. And so that'll go away later. So now I'm going to just tilt this slightly so that I can actually get it right up in here. And I'll stop it right about there. And so we'll talk through that. So the reason I'm tilting this slightly is I don't want the back potentially, in here dragging the whole way. I just want the tip to touch and the rest to clear. And that's why I'm doing this. I don't want to hit my jaws, like no matter what, ever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a dial up here. I'm where I want to stop, and I'm going to set my dial up so that just under 100 thou, before my tool gets to that point, I'll start seeing a reading on the dial. Then I'll stop it at exactly the 0. That would be exactly there, and there's no risk at all of actually running into my jaws. Okay, so there's my 0. And this should stop turning, 78 thou. So I'll see it start moving when it touches, and I'll know to stop it exactly there. And that way I won't come in and nail my jaws. So I've touched off. I'm about 9 thou away from 0. Let's see if this even cleans up. See, I'm coming around now on the dial, getting closer to the 0. And stop it before anything hits. So a lot of times you'll see me, get some emery and deburr things before I move them around. And I'm not going to do that here because with these things sticking out like this, I don't want my hands in here. If you got a finger caught in, ugly. So I'm going to take it out and just dress it up by hand, get rid of any burrs, and then we can flip it around and do the other side. So that seems to taper off pretty nice. I'm going to see if I feel any kind of step. And I can't. I can't perceive any amount of step there at all. So I'm happy with that.
Ooh.
I'm going to straighten this back up, and I'm going to start facing this. Now, I don't have a dimension to shoot for. Really, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to just minimum skim it, clean it up like we did with the other side. And then I think what I'm going to do after that is start dishing out some of the middle portion. So I want the hub to be this full length here, and I want the handle to be that full width, I guess. But just to make it lighter and, just kind of look a little nicer, I'm going to dish away some in between here and make it a little lighter, make it a little more stylish looking. Well, that's it for this show, guys. Hope you enjoyed.
And if you did, please like and subscribe.
Your face is broken.
It's because I was smiling.
Metal?
Work.